Scroll through social media today, and you'll find a public war in progress. In one corner, baby boomers are accused of hoarding wealth and clinging to the past. In the other, millennials and Gen Z are louder than ever about burnout, identity politics, and rising costs. But if you look closely, there is a third group sitting quietly in the background, not yelling, not trending, watching the chaos with a coffee in hand and a faint, ironic smirk. That's Generation X. Born roughly between 1965 and 1980, they are the forgotten middle children of American history. Most people barely mention them until something breaks, and they are the ones expected to fix it. They became invisible because the world they grew up in didn't have much room for them. When you grow up learning that nobody is coming to save you, self-reliance is no longer a choice, it's an identity. To understand the modern Gen X mind, we have to look back at the specific environment that dictated their early development. In the 1970s and 80s, divorce rates in America climbed, and two-income households became the norm. As more women entered the workforce, it created a massive childcare gap that society didn't yet know how to fill. The result was the latchkey kid. Imagine stepping off the school bus at 3:12 p.m. and walking into a house that greets you with silence. No footsteps, no voice calling your name. You hear the hum of the refrigerator and the smell of yesterday's dinner. Psychologists call this benign neglect. It is the distinct experience of being physically safe but emotionally unsupervised. If you fall and scrape your knee, you rinse it and move on. If you feel scared, you swallow it. At 8 years old, you learn a harsh lesson. Help is not automatic, and you must solve your problems without making noise. When a child is forced to take up less space to survive, they learn to be unseen. Eventually, that survival strategy becomes their personality.
People often assume Gen X is emotionally cold, but they simply have a different way of packaging their feelings. They feel as deeply as anyone else. They just learn to keep it compressed. They were raised in a culture where sadness was treated like an inconvenience. They learned emotional minimalism, not expressing much, not asking for much, because for a long time, the rule was to feel it privately and handle it alone. When they love you, they show it through reliability. They fix your car. They handle problems before you notice. Sarcasm and acts of service are how they share pain without sounding weak. They grew up learning how to function through their feelings. It's why a Gen Xer can support everyone else while quietly neglecting themselves, choosing to work through pain because asking for help still feels like a foreign language. This self-reliance is reinforced by a deep cynicism. Gen X grew up watching trusted institutions crack in real time. Watergate proved that even the president could lie. The Challenger explosion showed them that even the future could fail, suddenly and violently. To them, tomorrow was never a guarantee. They were also the first generation raised on non-stop advertising. Constant exposure to 1980s mall culture and Saturday morning marketing built a finely tuned internal BS detector. Their famous whatever attitude is actually emotional self-defense. By keeping their expectations low, they ensure that disappointment can't break them. Their childhood was analog and physical. They rode bikes without tracking apps, memorized phone numbers, and navigated with maps. This environment taught them how to solve problems in the real world. Then, as they entered adulthood, the digital revolution hit. They adapted to personal computers and the internet, making them the only generation that is truly psychologically bilingual. This dual fluency makes them the invisible workhorses in modern systems. They are the translators who can troubleshoot a router and still understand the old-school hierarchy of the workplace. Because they raised themselves, micromanagement feels like a personal insult. To Gen X, control feels like distrust, and they protect their autonomy with quiet, fierce resistance. This diagram shows Gen X as a central node in the sandwich generation, caught in a pressure cooker between two immense responsibilities. On one side, they are managing the complex medical needs and cognitive decline of aging baby boomer parents, who are living longer than any previous generation. On the other side, they are providing unprecedented support to their Gen Z children, who are facing a job market and tuition costs that offer little stability. They are carrying this dual burden while still trying to recover from a lifetime of economic instability, from the 2008 financial crisis to the pandemic, often with no pension to fall back on. They wake up early, check on their parents, show up to meetings, and pay the bills,
only to fall asleep with a clenched jaw and do it again tomorrow. It is a state of being relentlessly productive while silently breaking under the weight. The latchkey kids who asked for nothing became the adults everyone asks everything from. But for many, this has become a turning point. Gen Xers are quietly leaving high-stress careers and simplifying their lives. They played the system's game for decades and finally realized the prize wasn't worth the cost. They are choosing to step away from the noise and prioritize their own peace. The ultimate lesson for Gen X is that strength no longer requires silence. After a lifetime of taking care of everyone else, they are finally learning that independence doesn't have to mean being alone.
The next video might completely change how you see people. Like and subscribe so you don't miss it.